Hi, everyone. I'm Kurt Roney, your instructor for this course. The purpose of this briefing is to introduce you to the course and give you an idea of what to expect in it. I'll be going over the scope of the course, in addition to how your grade will be calculated and what you can expect in each of the 8 weeks of this course. And so with that, I'll just get started by bringing some PowerPoint slides up to the screen, and you will be able to find a copy of these PowerPoints on your Moodle shell. So let's hope I can get this thing up here now. There we go. So this is Business 410 and a new 8-week version. Prior to this new introduction, the course has been offered in 5 weeks for folks who do not take the course in the normal traditional version here on campus. This is a little bit different course organization than we've had in the past. Frankly, it will be a lot more comfortable for you because it's a lot less cram-packed. Let's get started. Let's see if I can get started here. There we go. The course is about strategic management, which I hope you already knew. And it's about the methods that managers use to assess a firm's economic environment and its abilities to, and the firm's ability to satisfy customers' needs, not just to do that, but to do it with distinctive competence. And then once it has those capabilities and it understands the environment, to select goals and strategies and strategic objectives, I should say, for sustained competitive advantage and financial success. And then to form strategies to achieve goals and objectives and to implement the strategy successfully. This is an excerpt from the syllabus, and I'm not going to bore you by reading all of the items in this description of the course now, but I do recommend that you take the trouble to read it. For instance, it's mentioned that this is both a skills course and a big picture course that integrates knowledge gained from prior business courses, as well as sharpening your ability to think strategically, and to actually do the work of strategic planning by selecting goals, developing strategic objectives, and forming strategies, as well as to think about what is required to make those strategies come true. For those of you who want to know, this is a brief summary of my credentials to teach this course. Prior to getting into academics, I was vice president for corporate planning and development at Phillips Industries, Inc., which is a New York Stock Exchange corporation. Previously, I was director of corporate planning at Holiday Inn. After most of my industrial experience, but also sort of interspersed with different stops that I made in industry, I was a management consultant. I was a senior management consultant with PepsiCo, and my job when I was on the consulting staff at PepsiCo was to provide services to all of PepsiCo's various divisions, as well as corporate headquarters. At Pete Marwick Mitchell and Company, which is now called KPMG, I was a senior management consultant in the St. Louis office. And then after my industrial career, I was managing principal, essentially managing partner of Commercial Planning Consultants, which was a firm that assists corporations in doing strategic planning. And when those plans call for acquisitions or divestments, then our firm helped our clients to buy other companies or to sell their divisions or business units that no longer had a place in their strategy. As an academic, I began at Antioch University's McGregor School of Management, which was a graduate management program outside of Dayton, Ohio. Later on, when I got into academics full-time, I first joined North Carolina Wesleyan College, and I earned tenure there. And then about 12 years ago, I came to Mount Olive, which I guess I should change that. It's now the University of Mount Olive. And the purpose of my coming here was to provide the university with skill and the ability to offer courses in strategic management, as well as international management. I've done a fair amount of that as well. But my long suit and my entire professional career has been in strategic planning and implementation in the form of acquisitions and divestments. So enough about me. The scope of this course is quite broad. It involves the strategic management process as an overview, and the various elements, for instance, assessing the economy, market, and industry that influence the firm's potential, evaluating the firm's competitive capabilities, selecting mission, goals, and strategic objectives, formulating strategies to accomplish or to achieve those goals and objectives by creating competitive advantage, that is, the ability to do things that are important better than other companies with whom your firm competes. And finally, the methods and procedures for implementing strategy. So it's pretty broad-based. More specifically, the objectives are to enable you to acquire some essential strategic management skills, to gain an appreciation of the firm's distinctive competence and its competitive position in the environment as requirements for what's called sustainable competitive advantage. We're glad to have competitive advantage and be able to do better than our rivals all the time. But it's one thing to be able to do that temporarily, and it's another thing to be able to do that in a sustained way over a long period of time. And that's what we're talking about when we say sustained competitive advantage. Another objective is to enable you to appreciate differences in strategic planning for single businesses and multi-division corporations. So these are very different approaches to strategic planning. The scope of what goes on in corporate versus business level strategic planning is quite different. And you'll come to appreciate the differences between those two levels of planning in this course. You'll also learn some very useful techniques for forming goals and objectives and strategies so that you can take them with you wherever your career may take you. To gain awareness of vital strategy implementation skills. This is extremely important, of course. We may have a wonderful plan, but if we can't make it happen, then there still may be some benefit in what we learn, but we'll get a lot more benefit if we can actually make it come true and get some competitive advantage, essentially, to generate better profit than our competitors can. And to become aware of strategy implementation skills, just what kind of skills are required, and to appreciate the dynamic nature of strategy and the need to plan continuously because our business environment is changing all the time, both outside the firm and within the firm. Whether we're talking about the market conditions that we're dealing with or the capabilities that our firm has to perform. And finally, this is a big picture course. And so from time to time, we'll just think about what the concerns of top management are when top management forms strategy and charges the entire organization with making that strategy come true. Now, this is, even though it's improved from a 5-week course, it's still a half a semester. It's not a full semester. And therefore, there are some things that we can't do, even though we'd like to. For instance, the traditional 15-week course, it's a capstone course. And one of the things that we do in the 15-week course is a case study. Classes are broken up into teams, and these teams work all semester long while they're doing the rest of the course to study a company and essentially to put together a very comprehensive picture of that company's approach to strategic management and all the elements that go into it. Even though we have more time in an 8-week course than a 5-week course, I really can't ask you to go through the same amount of work and effort that the folks in the 15-week course do. But what we can do, and what I have done, is put 3 mini cases into this course, just little snippets of how specific companies have dealt with certain strategic issues. It's not the same as a full case by any stretch, but it will give you a little bit better appreciation of the kind of real-world problems that companies have to deal with. Because this is an 8-week course, because holidays occur that can interrupt the calendar and schedule of putting this course online for you, we may have to deviate from the syllabus sometime, but you will find a syllabus on your Moodle shell. But essentially, what you get out of this course is going to depend on what you are willing to put into it. If you care to accelerate your career and to have a career in corporate management, this course will be a big help to you if you take advantage of it. If those are not your aspirations and you don't really have an ambitious management career, then you still have to pass the course to get your degree, but you may not be willing to put as much into the course, and consequently you will get less from it. So it's a compressed, intensive course. There's no doubt that most people think that this course has a lot more in it than most courses do, and it demands a fair amount from you. So you must make enough time to do the work. But fortunately, in this 8-week version, you'll have more time than the poor folks who had to take it in 5 weeks used to have. Okay, so the approach, how this course lays out is there are going to be 4 lectures that I'll offer you. And those lectures are an introduction to strategic management, much of which you will get in this introduction. A second lecture on how to gather evidence to make strategic decisions by gathering evidence regarding the external environment, that is the economy, markets, and industry structure. And secondly, gathering evidence on internal capabilities, including financial performance trends and as well as the company's ability to perform essential functions. Thirdly, making strategic decisions, that is to say, selecting goals and strategy and strategic objectives. And finally, implementation. The textbook is a brand new one. This textbook has been chosen for this course, partly because the one that we had been using was discontinued at the same time that this new course was launched. And so this is a brand new textbook. I think you'll find it easy to get through. It is not a highly demanding textbook, and it's easy to read. But there are 12 chapters, and briefly, in a couple of minutes, I'll be explaining to you which chapters will occur in which weeks. As far as testing is concerned, there will be quizzes on each lecture and each chapter. And I made a mistake there, didn't I? Because I put 9, and in fact, it's 12. So shame on me. The previous textbook had only 9 chapters, and I forgot to fix that. There will be 3 tests, essentially spreading the chapters out in between them. There also will be, although they're not included here, 3 mini cases, and those mini cases are scattered throughout the textbook, and again, they're meant to provide you with a little bit of opportunity to see the problems of dealing with strategic issues through the eyes of people who actually encounter them. So, yeah, here we've got things spelled out a little more clearly. So here it is in summary. Quizzes on 12 text chapters and the 4 lectures, so 16 quizzes. There will be 3 of these little mini case assignments scattered through the course, just about equal intervals. And after, in the week that you are asked to read these little cases, there will be an essay question that either I or your instructor, if it's not me, will ask you to write about those many cases. And they will be due in a subsequent week. There are 3 tests, as I mentioned just a moment ago, on the chapters and the lectures. And again, they're scattered equally throughout the course. There's no final exam, but there is an outbound exam that is required by the Tillman School of Business for all graduating seniors. And this course is taken by graduating seniors. So you have the privilege of taking the Tillman School's outbound exam. It's only worth 5 points of your grade. And frankly, it's the grading criteria are very, very generous. So it's hard not to get a pretty significant number of points for this little test. So here it is. Here's the way your grade is calculated in summary. Again, quizzes on 12 chapters and 4 lectures. 3 tests on principles of strategic management, each one worth 15 points. 3 mini case papers, each one worth 5 points. And that outbound exam, which is worth only 5%. And if you do just modestly well on that exam, you can earn all 5 points. So now I will run through the schedule of just how the course will unfold. And I won't go into great detail, but at least I'll give you an idea of just what to expect as we go through these 8 weeks. So here in the first week, there's an introduction and a summary of intended activities. Your part of it you're hearing right now. There's a lecture on strategic management methodology, and please read chapter 1 on the fundamentals of strategic management. There will be a quiz on lecture 1, and there will be a quiz on chapter 1. And week 2, real simple. Look at lecture 2, just like you looked at lecture 1 in the first week. Read the mini case on Home Depot and read chapter 2. There will be quizzes on Lecture 2 and Chapter 2, and you'll be asked to turn in a written essay or answers to essay questions about the Home Depot case in week 3. In week 3, you'll be asked to read Chapter 3 on environmental assessment and Chapter 4 on environmental assessment. Here we're looking at the economy, markets, industry, and other topics that the author of this textbook examines, such as the growth of technology and so forth. At the end of week 3, there will be a test on that weekend, and it will cover chapters 1 through 4 and lectures 1 and 2. So this is a pretty stiff test, considering that you know, this is your initial experience with this course and this book. But it's only got 4 chapters and 2 lectures. I can tell you that the lectures are probably as demanding as the chapters. The author of this textbook has written very clearly, and it's not backbreaking in its length. So you won't have any difficulty reading the chapters. It's more getting through the lectures and studying the PowerPoints that come with them that you will find to be important. All right, in week 4, we'll have another lecture on making strategic decisions about goals and strategy. And you're asked to read Chapter 5 on ethics and social responsibility. Again, there will be a quiz on each of those. In week 5, we begin to get into corporate and business level strategy. Suppose I should alter that the title here, because the two really are quite different, and I don't think I typed the entire title. Okay, so there it is now. So Chapter 6 deals with corporate level strategy. Chapter 7 deals with business level strategy. And your second mini case is to be read in this 5th week. Remember, you won't have to turn it in until the 6th week, but it's time to read that now. Also, it looks like I've got a typo here, because this test is not due until the coming week. So let me edit that right now. So your responsibility in week 5 is chapters 6 and 7 and mini case number 2. So, and in fact, there is test number 2 now in the right location. So in Chapter 6, you'll read Chapter 8 on functional strategy. This is about tactics more than strategy. But the skills and abilities that are required to do the work of implementing strategy. And Chapter 9, almost a little out of sequence, is about how to take all that you've learned from gathering decision-making information and the earlier work that you've done at corporate and business level strategies, and putting them all together as a corporate whole strategy formation. This is really a misnomer for a title, but it's the title from the book. I think I'll change it right now to call it Integrating Strategy Formation, because that's really what this chapter is about. And then test number 2, which will cover lecture 3 and chapters 5 through 9. The tests, by the way, are always offered on the weekends, so you will have Saturday and Sunday to do them. In week number 7, we get into implementation of strategy. Lecture 4 is about implementation of strategy and contingency planning. Planning for future conditions in the external and internal environment that are not the assumptions of your prevailing plan, but if changes in the external environment or your internal capabilities should occur, and if they are significant enough, then it might be necessary to change strategy and how one forms contingency plans or alternative strategies, and ultimately decides to replace the strategies in the prevailing plan with new contingent strategies is what is referred to when we say contingency planning. But Lecture 4 gets into implementation more than contingency planning, but it winds up with a discussion of contingency planning. Chapter 10 is what you have to read here in week number 7. It's on organization structure, not a difficult chapter. And then you have your final mini case on Ford and some of the organizational issues that it faced. In the last week, week number 8, you'll be asked to read chapter 11 and chapter 12 on strategic change and leadership and strategic control and crisis management. And these are parts of strategic planning. They're sort of the cleanup part of strategy implementation, making strategy happen, strategic leadership, and then maintaining control. And another view of Professor Parnell, who wrote the book, his view on contingency planning, which he deals with in a much different way. He deals with things that are crises, and talks at the end of the chapter about crisis management. So at the end of week 8, you will have your third test. It will cover only 3 chapters and lecture 4. Although week number 8 has its challenges, at least the test covers only 3 chapters. And I think you'll be able to handle that pretty well. So just a couple final thoughts about the schedule of activities in these 8 weeks. There will be a video review of the chapters, and they'll be opened following the first day of the week and remain open all week long. Quizzes on lectures will be opened the same day that they're given and remain open for 2 or 3 days. Tests almost invariably will be open on Saturday morning and stay open until Sunday evening. So for those of you, most of you who work for a living, you will be able to take these tests during the weekend when it should be least inconvenient for you, and you'll have an opportunity to do a little studying before you take the test. So I hope that you enjoy the course and that you learn a fair amount about strategic management from it. It's, as I've mentioned, this is a new approach to teaching this course for 8 weeks, and we're using a new textbook. So it is certainly possible that a couple of wrinkles will show up from time to time, just as they did when I was running through these PowerPoint slides with you. But we think we've laid the course out fairly well. But I'll certainly look forward to meeting you, whether it's in video conferences or in a classroom, and hearing your thoughts about this course and how we can make it better. So with that, I'll say goodbye to you. You can see that here it's evening. I was about to say goodnight, but you well may be looking at this course, at this video during the daytime. So I'll just say goodbye Hope you enjoy the course, and I'll certainly look forward to meeting you sometime during the next 8 weeks. So with that,